Hello guys, and welcome to today's video. I am covering League Night from this last Thursday. This was our league's last GLC tournament using Twin and DCE energy before they got completely banned. And of course, because of that, a lot of people are playing colorless to give it the last hurrah it really deserves. And of course, small problem, it's a two-person household and we only have one colorless list, so I guess I am out of luck and I can't play the busted deck before it gets nerfed. So instead, I decided to try my luck with the one deck I think our house has that can potentially beat my husband's deck because I nearly did it once. It was a really awesome league night as well. I think there was about 17 players there. I know there was at least 4 seniors and 1 junior there too. It's a very mixed league, has a lot of different age groups there, and it's wonderful because of that. 3 rounds is all we do there, and luckily, there was someone who went 3-0 that night. I won't tell you who. And guess who forgot to bring a silly little attachment for our camera stand to take potential B-roll? Yes, we won't mention who it was because that would be awkward. So round 1, I face off against a lovely lady named Alex. It was a ladies match indeed. I am playing a coin flip psychic list and she is playing a hydro pump list of some sort. Did have an outdated hydro pump whale and I was able to get my board in a very powerful position pretty quickly. Of course, she got her Wailord up really fast, which is kind of terrifying, but I shut her down very quickly. I went into it with a Necrozma, got some damage up, I had D-Valley up. She didn't manage to bump my D-Valley, and I went in and got a Revenge KO with Wobbuffet with a single energy, shutting off all of her abilities, so it was really hard for her to respond. I was also then able to do a Guzma KO on her bench Frostmoth, which was her only water acceleration at one point, and though she had a Drizzle sitting on her deck for the longest time, I never ended up sniping it, and it turned out it was prized. So I was able to set up my board into a very powerful position, and kind of just ran her off the board. Funnily enough, we ended up going almost the time with that match, but mostly because she was very new with the deck and had to read a bunch of cards, and we were chatting up the storm with our table partners who had finished their match early. It was a very fun casual match, and I hope she is able to get a better workshopped Hydro Pump list, because it was a pretty decent beginner list. It had a very interesting wishy-washy in it, which has 30 HP, but an ability that gives it 150 if it has more than 3 energy on it, so it was a 180 HP behemoth at one point, which I hexed killed. So I didn't have to go in with something other than like a Necrozma to get a KO. And unfortunately, I was unable to set up my Togekiss that game either. Togekiss is very crucial, and I wanted to get it up at least once. And round 2 was not as relaxing. I pop up, I check the board, and I'm going against Parker. Little known fact, Parker is one of the scariest fighters there. He actually goes to regionals. He's been playing just as long as us, but playing even longer because he stuck through late Sun and Moon and the tag team stuff where we skipped into 2017. So he's the scariest person there, has won a regionals in Canada, Vancouver back in 2022, and now I have to fight him. And it looked like he was running fire, and then I forget because we run crazy code in our quote-unquote crazy code colorless list that they run fire and triple axe. This was the second coin flip I lost. I was going first. I start off with Wob in the active, which I was pretty stoked about, and he had Rotom. And I'm like, sweet, I shut off his abilities, I'm fine. And I had this one little card in hand. I'm like, this is a really stupid gamble, but do I just not play my Fog Crystal? And I decided not to.
It was at this moment that he knew.
In hindsight, that was a really dumb decision, especially when my opponent was sitting on Goose Hala and was both powerful and muscle band in their list and did 110 damage and donked me for a KO. So we did a friendly after. The friendly was honestly kinda got steamrolled. It probably represented kind of what would have happened in my match. I did have some very awkward prizes in the friendly. I think Glade and Town Map were both prized, but he still managed to get like a couple of prizes ahead of me, and at that point I'm like, even if I get Togekiss up, I think he was just gonna steamroll me off the board. So I didn't feel too bad about that loss. It kind of made the friendly match less stressful. And it is the final round. And for my final round, I have against McCade, who is running Dark for the last time with Twin DCE. This is probably the best chance Guzzlord has to get him a good victory. He's the only other 2-0 opponent here too. There are 3 2-0s at this point in time, so if I win, there will be only one 3-0 winner guaranteed to take first prize. I unfortunately give my opponent one mulligan before it starts, but that doesn't seem to matter as he starts with Coughing Guzzlord and then proceeds to not get anything else set up. He is able to get a Coughing up, but I'm also able to get an early D-Valley attack off with a Muscle Band Necrozma, who is my starter. I'm also able to bench a Cleffa onto my bench, which at some point I used to fill up my hand, even though I end up sacking him to a Glaring Weezing with a single severe poison, and my opponent gets 2 poison kills early game, which is very awkward because I was still stuck at 6 prizes. He's also able to get a Turbo Energized off, and his Guzzlord now has 4 basic Dark Energy powering it up, and as soon as his Weezing goes down, it was very terrifying because he would have start ripping through my board. Luckily, at that point in time, I was able to find a Guzma, and I got a Guzma kill with a Tinkaton. Unfortunately, before my Togekiss was up, but my opponent did not just immediately lose though. He was able to find a Sneasel and goes back into Weezing, trying to draw out of his incredibly dead hand, which I was able to KO, putting me at 4 prizes and my opponent at 3. At this point in time, he also bumped my Dimension Valley, putting Reverse Valley into play, and that kind of sucks because I wanted to use Dimension Valley for more value than what I got. I think I only got 1 turn out of my Dimension Valley. After I KO'd his Weezing, my opponent goes into his Weavile with a U-turn board attached to it and gets a pivot KO with a Hoopa, who slams down that same turn, activating my teammates, which I top decked the rare candy, so I'm able to go and grab a Glade and Togekiss and rare candy into Glade and put Togekiss into play the same turn. I use my supporter for turn, but I'm able to set up my hand for future stuff with the Glade, and that was really nice. And I'm able to do a Tinkaton Donk with a counter energy and a Lux Cape on it to try to prevent him from killing it with Weavile, because Weavile at this point in time was doing 150 damage because I had 3 abilities on board. However, my opponent is able to find the Field Blower and is able to take down my Tinkaton. Now we are at 2 and 2 prizes at this point in time. And I'm all trying to set up my board to try to figure out how do I prevent my opponent from getting this Guzzlord, which he has on the bench with a single Dark Energy on it, so if he's able to Raihan that turn, he'd be able to have a Guzzlord. How do I prevent my opponent from getting a Guzzlord double kill this next turn if I fail my Togekiss heads flip? So I decide to power up my Togekiss, who had 1 energy on him, and I'm able to power him up and attack with him because he's weak to metal and he has 140 HP, which means the Guzzlord would have to find a Muscle Band to get the KO. My opponent burned Dark Claw early, so he had no more access to that, and luckily for me, I was stressing out of my mind during my opponent's turn after the Tinkaton KO because he found a research and was able to completely set up his board. He got the Spiritomb out, he got a Guzzlord with a basic energy out, he got his whole bench filled up, and I was absolutely terrified that if I missed this next heads, it might be curtains for me. So I did everything in my power, and it was up to the coin flip gods to decide whether or not I potentially lose this game. And I got another heads, and I got the victory, and I got second place that night too. Since the only person I lost to was Parker, which lost to my husband, who won the night with a 3-0. And his match was actually very intense as well. He lost ground against Parker's colorless list, but was able to bring it back with a cheeky Bunnelby double KO when Parker was at 1 prize. Anyways, I hope this video wasn't too chaotic for you and you still found some enjoyment with it. I'll be sure to bring my camera next time so there's some better b-roll for you guys to look at, and I'll see you guys all in next week's video. Bye!